If you need a VPN, go Nord. Use nordvpn.com/Kimber to get a 2-year contract with a discount, plus 4 extra months, plus gifts in some markets. It's completely risk-free with Nord's 30-day money-back guarantee. The link is in the show notes. Protect your computer like a blocker protects the stumps with NordVPN today.
Celebrate your cricket heroes with Bodyline t-shirts. Explore their player-inspired tees, featuring legends like Sachin Tendulkar, Brian Lara, and Viv Richards. They also have team-inspired designs and options for hardcore cricket nerds. Their collection is a must-have for the true cricket enthusiast.
Morning, everyone, and welcome to the Scoreboard. Well, we just saw one of the best heavyweight hit-offs in all of world cricket. In the purple corner was Dre Russ with his weird starts and ending of certain bowlers. Then Heinrich Klaasen in the orange went for Mitchell Starc and Varun Chakravarti in his thrilling, crazy chase. And it's worth a shout out because we're mentioning those two guys smashing the ball absolutely everywhere, and we should be talking about them, of course. But also just to stop and remember that Sunil Narayan was like that dog from that fire meme, sitting still while the world burned around him. There was just lots of like and to fear, I suppose, at certain points for this team. But the game itself was incredibly enjoyable. The other match, not as much. Delhi seemed to be set up as a team to hope that Kuldeep Yadav takes 30 wickets because everything else looks pretty flimsy. And Ishant Sharma getting injured is at once not a big loss, but also far from ideal. And what about Punjab? What even is Sam Curran anymore? An anchor batter who bowls the first over, and to get him out the way, I am confused. But mostly I knew this. I saw one incredible game of cricket where sixes were sexy and another one where it was as sloppy as, I don't know, wrestling a pig in Jello. Anyway, on with the main part of the show. If there's anything you like in this show, sorry, we're going to do the main part of the Scoreboard first. If you want to ask any questions, is what I meant to say. Remember, the best way to do that is via a super chat. I see a couple of you already have, so thank you very much. But let us get on with the Scoreboard part of the show first. And let's have a look at this final over. Just absolute madness all the way through. So I think, if I'm not mistaken, that you could get odds of around 80 to 90 to 1 on the Sunrisers at one point. And my big issue with that was Heinrich Klaasen was still there. And I don't know what those odds would have been if Heinrich Klaasen wasn't there. But it's very hard to give up on a team like that, which is, you know, why I didn't and was still backing them at that point. And to think that they went from, let's say, conservatively 40 or 50 to 1 all the way through to 90 to 1, and they ended up as favourites within the last over, just tells you how crazy all this was. So you've got the 6 over fine leg to start with, just, you know, clubbing that ball away. But then I thought Harshit bowled... we got both of these. Harshit bowled a slower ball. That would come up again later. A great wicket here. They sent Janssen in instead of Pat Cummins. I think Joe Janssen's as good a batter as Pat Cummins, but I just wonder if out of the two of them, if I don't believe that Pat Cummins is more likely to hit a 6 or a 4 straight away. But excellent work here to finally get rid of Klaasen, because obviously that was the biggest thing. A really good catch at short third. And remember this. How many catches had Kolkata put down by this point? It must have been 4 or 5 chances. Not to mention that Sunrisers got lucky with just balls dropping everywhere, although the way that Kolkata were fielding, I'm not sure Kolkata would have actually stopped any of them anyway. But it was absolutely crazy watching some of that hitting at the end. And of course then Cummins comes in, and as I said, it was a slow ball here to Klaasen and another slow ball at the end. I was really impressed with Harshit Rana all the way through. I liked his energy, I liked his pace, I liked his bounce, and then at the end I liked his slow balls. It was really, really impressive. I mean, figures are not going to look brilliant because it's not a game where you end up with really good figures, but impact on this game, I thought he was huge early on. And let's just have a look at even the economy rate. He still came out with 8.25. Mitchell Starc got Klaasened. Actually, I thought he bowled okay. I've probably been his biggest critic, certainly of paying him £1 billion, or $1 billion, $1 billion rupees, whatever it is, that he is getting paid. I've been a critic of that because I think he was overpaid, but I actually thought he bowled really well today. I didn't even think he bowled terribly in the over against Klaasen. It's just sometimes Klaasen is Klaasen. Varun Chakravarti, it was just the wrong option against Klaasen. I'm not sure what his options are when bowling to someone like Klaasen. He doesn't go up out of the hand. He doesn't get any dip on the ball. And so you can play, if you've got a player like Klaasen who can play off the back foot and basically play tennis shots or straight bat shots off the back foot, Chakravarti's a bit of a problem there. Andre Russell, that's pretty normal figures for him. And Surya Sharma did okay, but this is what I was talking about before, the fire, the dog in the fire cartoon, just sitting there while the world burns around him. Just absolutely incredible work from Sunil Narayan all the way through, and could have had better figures, had dropped catch, and also had an LBW that he didn't review, and at the very least, that looked very umpire's call-y. So I think that was a bit of a mistake from him, but certainly they're not going to care as much now. And this is Mitchell Starc. When I said I bowled well, I don't think this is a terrible over. It shows you how much T20 cricket has changed. I mean, Heinrich Klaasen and Andre Russell just put on an absolute clinic of ball hitting, right? And there's a certain point at which I'm not sure what you are supposed to do other than bowl your very best ball and hope that they mishit one. But you could see he went for a little bit of runs at the start, but I thought, I did think he was okay. So it's an interesting day for him, but if I had spent $1 billion on him, which I would not have done, I would be worried about today, all things considered. Let's move on here. Andre Russell by bowling toe since the start of December 2023. Against right arm pace, he's striking at 231. So 50% of the bowling that you face is this. And he's scoring at more than 2 runs a ball against it. It's either against left arm pace, he's not even at 2 runs a ball. That's pathetic. His strike rate is only 193. Ospin, he hasn't faced much of it. It's only a handful of balls, but 263. I don't think he's faced much left arm orthodox as well, 208. And his strike rate is 213. I think there were times when I want to say McKendy bowled to him. Was it McKendy he smashed? I'm trying to remember who. I mean, he smashed everyone. But I think there's a lot of people who were concerned that, you shouldn't bowl leg spin to him. Looking at this list, what should you bowl to him? Right? Like he's got just in one of those modes of form that he hits every now and again where kind of everything works. I am very interested to see how he goes up against the bouncers. But in Natarajan, who bowled really well today, by the way, and Bhuvi, you had 2 death bowlers who don't really bowl bouncers. I think other teams will try a lot more bouncers against Andre Russell, but that wasn't what the Sunrisers were set up for, unfortunately for them. And this is Andre Russell by bowler today. So you can see against Kumar, he went at almost 4 runs a ball. Interestingly enough, the one bowler who could bowl bounces at him, although I don't remember that many, but there was a couple of certainly back of the length balls he didn't go very much against. Natarajan, he ran at 2 runs a ball, and Natarajan bowled well against him. And obviously against Makandi, he went for runs as well. As I said, at a certain point, you shouldn't bowl to him. That's the biggest problem. Phil Salt scoring by ball today. This is incredible because he hit the 3 sixes in a row, and that completely warped betting markets and the way we were looking at the game and everything at that point. It really was a dramatic and drastic start to that game. And then he became an anchor. And I'm trying to think of how many times I've ever seen Phil Salt play like that. And why I found this more interesting was that there was high intent from all the Kolkata batters today. I thought Nitesh Rana was playing 3 shots a ball. It's not really his game, right? Like, I thought that was quite weird. Shreyas Iyer got a half volley outside off stump. You get a half volley in T20 cricket. There's no reason to try and hit that thing in the air. You just punch that through the field because trying to hit a half volley in the air can be quite tough unless you're that kind of player. You're someone like Dhoni who can lift those balls easily, or Daryl Mitchell. Most players, if you get a half volley, the best thing to do is just to thrash it. Right? You are going to hit them to the field every now and again, but I thought that was a really, really odd decision. But my point being is that those are 2 guys you don't really expect to go that hard. I think Kolkata have come in with a real intent vibe, and yet the guy with all the intent here ended up really pulling himself back. So it was interesting, and of course with Andre Russell at the end and Rinku Singh, I'm trying to think if anyone else hit any runs, but they didn't. It didn't matter as much, but not what we expect from Phil Salt. This, I think that's fair to say. And this was Ramandeep Singh. Oh yeah, he was the other one I wanted to mention. So quite impressed by the way that he came in as well. I thought it was interesting that they promoted him ahead of Andre Russell and Rinku Singh, because I kind of see Ramandeep Singh as a similar kind of player to those other two. Perhaps they just thought that he was better off against the spin or the matchups at that stage. I'm not sure, but I thought that we'd see Rinku, Andre Russell, and then Ramandeep, but we went kind of a different pattern. Could be just this game. But you can see here, Salt strike rate of 150. By that stage, he started to hit a few more boundaries. But this is really where it did start. I thought him and Rinku Singh did very well. No one's going to remember them because of what Andre Russell did. But there was some interesting thing there. And Rinku Singh, again, I made a joke on Cricket 8 today. We did another live watch along. It was certainly worth watching today. Not just because you could have learnt a lot, but also just because it was madness. But Rinku Singh striking at 150. And it just looks silly because of Andre Russell, whereas this is obviously really good as well. But great work from them to get to that position. And let's just have a look at the Sunrisers. So I think early on, they really went for this. I'm just having a look. Is this? We don't have the colours. I am assuming... Oh, this is the IPL in 2023 is the orange. And then the yellow must be today. I think I've got that right. So you can see they went at 7.5 runs and over. But they did actually, today they slowed down a lot in the middle. A lot of that's just Sunil Narine though. And that's, my big thing was even, they got really, really short. There was, in fact, this was an incredibly interesting betting game. There was one person who just kept betting on the Sunrisers. And when he was doing that, he was, Muku changes the graph in the middle. Thank you, Muku. He was betting on the Sunrisers and he put about $15 million of bets on one market. And I say one market because he could have had bets on other markets as well. He put $15 million on the Betfair market on the Sunrisers while they were in this sort of, probably from the second or third over onwards, but he was still doing it in the middle and still doing it towards the end. And to be fair, by the end, hopefully he laid some of that off because it was incredible work by him. But he was doing that even while this was happening. But Sunil Narine just completely stopped that chase, didn't he? And I was saying on air, that was my issue with backing the Sunrisers. It wasn't that this was a fantastic start. It was that they were going to have to go up against Varun Chakravarti and Sunil Narine. And my guess was that one of them would come off. And that's kind of all you need in this 200 score thing. Heinrich Klaasen still almost made it happen with, and Shabazz as well. We should be talking about him. Incredible hitting off the bounce to be able to come in and be able to strike the ball as well as he did. And that's obviously why they went at 17, almost 18 runs and over for those final four. Just magnificent effort from them there. And just to have a look at the volatility in the win predictors here of just like trying to predict this game all the way through. So this is at the 13 over mark. And you can see it's all over the place here. And this is just messy. It's up and down. And, we saw this is the Andre Russell effect here. And this is the Heinrich Klaasen effect here. If you want to see exactly what's going on, I felt sorry for, Winvis's prediction model at times today. You can see that Kolkata were a 97% chance of winning, a 99.27% chance. I don't agree with either of these numbers. I think they were both wrong, but I can see why Win Predictor would go with them. And then Sunrisers were an 81% chance. And yet, in the end, the Kolkata just got over the line. Just a balmy game to follow in that particular way. And this is the IPL in 2023. See, first 6 overs, he had a strike rate of 200, strike rate of 170, and this is in that previous tournament, of course, and then a strike rate of 131, and then 178 at the end. And you can see today he had a strike rate of 131 from, is that right? From overs 1 to 6, from 12 to 16 there. And then you can see here a strike rate of 323 at the end. It's incredible to think that this was a failure, right? And he also, as I said, got an incredible cameo at the end. I don't know how many balls Shabazz ended up facing, but it felt like he had everything for 4 or 6 until he went out. Just a truly remarkable game from that point of view. And this is one of those quiet things that you need to mention in a game like this. Natarajan, I thought, bowled exceptional. They used him for 2 overs in the power play, went for 5 and 4, and did really well. He came on at the first over of the death, and he got, hit a little bit. This 8 runs at the end when you're bowling to Andre Russell. I can't remember if Rinku Singh was still in at that stage or if they'd moved on. That is just next level bowling. That's a really, really good sign. The problem is that it was matched with Bhuvi Kumar. And you can see we got no issues with Bhuvi at the top. He was fantastic. And then he's come back, he's gone hit for 18 and 26. But here was my issue with Bhuvi today. It was, when watching him in the death, I didn't know what his best options were. He doesn't have the Yorker that he used to have when he was younger. He's probably lost a little bit of pace, maybe some accuracy with the Yorker. His slow balls have never been completely elite. People aren't as afraid of him as they used to be. This is an extreme pattern of what I kind of expect we'll see a few times this year. Teams are still willing, when he's moving the ball around early on and he's really accurate, to play him like the old Kumar. But then later on when he gets to the death, I think teams are going to play him like this. Doesn't mean he can't fight back, because the interesting thing with Bhuvi is he's such a clever cricketer that when you start to play him differently, he will interact with that differently himself. But, he's got a lot to worry about. There's so many interesting bowling stories in this one today. I thought Cummins completely got away with this. I think this is on the back of Natarajan's spell. And I thought he got completely away with that over. Sometimes Pat Cummins can go in the first. This is one we shouldn't be going for 13 runs in this area. But then they continued to use him in the middle. And 9th, 13th, 15th, these are the sort of overs I really want to see Pat Cummins bowling. And didn't work early on, but he fought his way back, and his figures overall in a game like this were really, really good. And that 4 runs in that 15th over, I thought was absolutely special. To be able to go for that, especially considering how this game has ended up. So that's it for the scoreboard today. We don't have anything on the other game just because this game completely took it over in our minds. But if you want to ask questions about the other game, I have plenty of takes. I think there might even be some questions already. We'll have a quick break here. And then I'll go through the questions and see if there's anything else in there. But you're watching the Scoreboard with Jared Kimber. If you're enjoying our show, and thank you for so many people for turning up again. And we've only just started these on the IPL, but people are already all in on these. But please get back to us. Get in touch and subscribe and do all those sorts of things. But I have a quick break here on the Scoreboard, and then we'll be back in a moment with questions from you in the chat room. I'm Jared Kimber. This is the Scoreboard. See you in a moment.
A lot of people complain that I'm not a former cricketer, and so that I don't really know the game. Well, you know what they can't claim? That I don't know desks. I've been using desks for years. I'm a collector of desks, old and new, and I'm sitting on a new one right now. I'm the Don Bradman of sitting at desks. So when I tell you that the E7 Pro next generation height adjustable desk from FlexiSpot is legit, this is like Michael Jordan talking to you about sneakers. This desk holds 160 kilograms. It is as stable as anything I've ever seen, and it has under-desk cable management. But really, the main skill here is that this desk rises and falls at the push of a button, and it moves super quick. And it has so many settings that remember your favorite heights. It really does it all. And I could not recommend the E7 Pro from FlexiSpot anymore, even though I am currently sitting on one of FlexiSpot's BS12 Pro multifunctional, adjustable, upgraded fabric, ergonomic chairs. My butt and computer have never been happier than when using one of FlexiSpot's products. So get over to their page right now for big savings.
All right, welcome back. Let's get to some questions. Segar says, DC had taken 2 wickets in an over. Why wouldn't they bowl Akshar and then Ishant for 1 more instead of their 2 worst bowlers, Khalil and Marsh? I'd have to go back and think about when that happened. You probably sent this message as it happened, and we've now done 7 more hours of cricket after that. If you've got 2 wickets in an over, generally you want to use a bowler that is a strike bowler. So Marsh took the most wickets for them last year, and Khalil is a strike bowler. Ishant probably less so, and Akshar not. So, but I'm not remembering the whole situation, right? That's just, if you're asking me off the top of my head, Sega, that would be my answer to that. So I'm trying to remember if Punjab did something similar. Another team did something today. It might have been Andre Russell. I can't remember. But another team did something similar today. They took a couple of wickets, and they actually brought on a bowler who was who has a high likelihood of taking wickets, but is not one of their better bowlers, because they thought that they'd be able to continue that pattern rather than bringing on a defensive bowler and then you're dotting them up. That's your chance to get away with an over, from another bowler, and especially if they're a high wicket-taking bowler, it puts the game in your favour. But I'm not saying that was right or wrong, because I can't remember it. Rupesh says, can someone become a sports writer, content creator, even if they've never played a sport in school, junior club, domestic level? Look, it's a lot harder. I played so much cricket in my life, and obviously coached it as well. There are a lot of. There's a thing called shibboleth, Rupesh, and it's a Jewish term for how Jewish people. I think it was how they would greet each other, so they would know that they were Jewish. There were things that they would say or do that automatically would be known. There's a lot of shibboleths in cricket, and in all sports, right? And so it is a little bit tougher. But I certainly know people who've never played cricket who have become cricket writers, but they generally become cricket news writers rather than analysts and everything else. I think that's the tricky one. Once you start talking about what is happening on the field, that is very, very hard, because that you do have to have some understanding. If you can go back on the main channel, Rupesh, you'll see there's a podcast I did with Harsha Bogle where I was talking about how him being a cricketer, even if it was just a club cricketer himself and a school cricketer, still helps him. And I know, myself and Neil Manthorpe, Andrew McKenna at TalkSport, we talk about this a lot, that having played as much cricket as all three of us has is still very, very helpful, even if it's not the same as, if we're commentating with Matt Pryor or Curtly Ambrose. We're not comparing our cricket, but that ability to understand stuff really instantly does help when you are a sports writer or a content creator and everything else. But what I would say is the advantage of not being a cricketer at all, or a person of any sports, actually allows you to look at the sport completely differently. So that, me not being a professional cricketer is sometimes a really interesting way of looking at things. But I do think having played the game is a big help as well. Rupesh says, how do you create your algorithms and graphs? Do you code, or do you just use some software? Most of the stuff that you would have seen that I've seen at the moment is just getting the data off spreadsheets and then putting it into places like Canva and Flourish and anywhere else that we make our stuff. So I can't code. I've tried to teach myself to code. I know that one day I reckon I will learn how to code, just because out of pure frustration, but I'm not there yet. But yeah, no, it's most of the stuff I get is from spreadsheets, so I've been lucky. So that's also why, we are looking at getting someone who can code for our channel, but it's just a financial thing, if we're being honest. But one day we'll get there, hopefully. ABCD says, have any two players carried a franchise as much as Russell and Narayan have KKR? Also, would the Ponting stocks fall to an all-time low if DC is shit? It's a really interesting thing about Russell and Narayan. I'm trying to think, who would their third best player have been? Shakib? I mean, Shakib was fantastic as well, but maybe during their peak years. Dhoni is obviously a big part of CSK, so I suppose you have to factor him in, and Bumrah at Mumbai. But yeah, I think it's a really fair call, A, B, C, D, E, F. Space EF. And as far as Ponting goes, look, this looks like a bad team, right? They're missing fast bowlers. I can't remember what I said in the previews now, because today's game has fried my brain. They look like they've got a lot of older players that hopefully can come right for them, but there seems to be a lot of risks there. I think, did I say in the intro that it's almost like a team that's set up for Kuldeep to take all the wickets, and if he doesn't, how are they going to put any pressure back? Putting a lot of pressure on a guy who I think is a fantastic bowler, but he's going to have to take a 25 to 30 wicket season, I think, at this point. Akshar's a fantastic cricketer, but Akshar's a defensive bowler and a limited but talented batter. There just feels like there's so many weaknesses. I was really disappointed with that game today. I thought both teams played really, really poorly. And, sometimes one team out loses the other team. That's kind of how I felt about that game. Chop says, I think batting average, even buzzer, is a poor indicator of a player's worth, especially in T20. We should look at frequency of high impact performance or something like that. So what I would look at, buzzer is terrible, because you can average 100 with a strike rate of 100 and you've got a buzzer of 200. And another player can average, 45 with a strike rate of 150, and he's not seen as good a player. So Basra is a terrible metric. It just needs to die a death. I don't use Basra. I don't know any analysts who I trust who use Basra. It sometimes is a good shorthand for players if players are all playing normally, but it doesn't work for tailenders. It doesn't work for so many things. So I'm out on Basra, and everyone is. I just never have really heard of it all that much. Batting average, I mean, top order players, it tells you about the consistency of the runs. So it gives you an idea. We use it, but we actually look at another metric, which I've forgotten the name of now, but we look at a contextual thing. So what was the expected score that you were supposed to make for the position of the game that you came in, whether it be 17 for 3 or none for 65 after 5 overs, whatever it may be, what was that? And we're looking at that. So that's a far more important one for us. We don't even just use strike rate anymore. We use true strike rate. Which is a much better metric again. So there are way more. We've gone well beyond all those sorts of basic ones. Certainly most analysts would do that. Coaches are a little bit different and players are a little bit different. That's for sure. But yeah, there's a lot of us don't use those sorts of things. All Things Cinema says, "Wow, Jared, that's the first time I've seen you in a well-combed parted hairdo." So I'm at Cricket 8. Oh, wrong chest. Well, right chest, wrong nipple. But yeah, I'm in Cricket 8 today, and Natalie is here, the great Natalie, and she decided to give me a different hairstyle today, and I trust Natalie. My hair's a bit short at the moment. Got a haircut recently, not feeling it. Almost put the hat on today, but Natalie saved the day. Let's see what she goes with for tomorrow. But yeah, usually my hair's quite long, and usually I have it a bit more rough than this. Keshul says, Jared, IPL and all is cool, but how happy are you to see your man DDS lead Sri Lanka and get 100 in the game after Sri Lanka was 57 for 5? Yeah, I couldn't watch it, of course, but I think that game's still interestingly poised, actually. But that's a different argument, I suppose, altogether. But yeah, love the man. Always happy when he makes runs. Magnificent one. And Oren says, do you think second-tier leagues like PSL 100 and SA20 are catching up to the IPL in quality? Having watched a lot of both leagues, I think the 100 and IPL are at a similar level. No, I wouldn't. No, don't agree with that at all. Although if you were watching Punjab versus Delhi today, I could see why you might think that. But I can't see many teams in the PSL or the 100 doing well in this league, and even SA20, I would think the teams would struggle. There's still a clear gap for me. Having just watched the PSL. I'm definitely not feeling this at all. We'll take another quick break, and if there's any more questions in the chat, please do. But if it's the first time watching the scoreboard, like, subscribe, do all those things. Go over to the main channel. We've got bunches of content ready to go over there. In the next couple of days, I am sure we will be back and firing. But we'll take a quick break here, and if you have any more comments, put them in, and we'll finish the show after this.
If you have always wanted to turn your passion for sports into a career, well, I have the course for you. Fans with Laptops is the multimedia course that I came up with after millions of reads, views, and listens to all my work. It's designed for anyone to use their own fandom to get better at making content on the sport they love. Go to Fans with Laptops today. If me talking live about cricket is not enough, we also have an entire channel dedicated to the best stories in cricket called Good Areas. Find out what matchups really mean, understand the logic behind baseball, and look at the most important selection in the history of cricket of Basil D'Oliveira. Come and visit us a couple of times a week on the Good Areas channel for a new video.
Stitch says, word on Pearl and his substitution. So let's start with him. I thought he was fantastic. I think he's had one innings like that in the IPL so far, and a couple of others where he's really struggled. So I thought it was brilliant. The substitution, I had just said on Cricket 8, it's probably too late for them to make a substitution here. And so the fact that they did then make that substitution, I thought was interesting. You can't deny that he had an impact and probably gave them a chance of winning. But the other side of that, of course, is they then didn't have another bowling option. I'm not sure who the other bowling option would have been that they could have brought in that would have impacted the game, though. So in some ways, he did have a positive impact, but I can understand why people might still be frustrated. I don't think that's a howler, right? They've got that right. However, I would still wonder about the process of how they got to that point. Splat says, would you want to see Klaassen at 4 so he has more balls to play and could have a bigger impact? I think Klaasen in most formats of cricket prefers to come in later. So when I'm asked a question like this, my first question is always, what does the batter want to do? Henrik Klaasen, Andre Russell's making a play for it at the moment, but Henrik Klaasen is probably the best T20 batter in the world at the moment, certainly over the last few years. It's not even close, although Andre Russell's making it a bit messy as we sit here at the moment. I can't imagine they're telling Klaasen where to bat. I think he's saying I want to come in for the 12th over, I reckon is what he's saying. He's absolutely perfect for that. Your general point is the same point we have with all players. If you're really good, you go up earlier. Are they going to be able to have a similar impact is the question that you always have to ask yourself. I don't know. All right? I don't know. I always thought that Kyron Pollard was one I thought definitely should have come in earlier. Henrik Klaasen, maybe more in that AB to V years, I want him to come in a little bit later, but you want him to make as many runs as possible. Abdullah says, what do you make of Pont's return? Yeah, we haven't talked about that. I thought he kept really, really well. Really impressed by the way he moved behind the stumps. Some great glove work. Did he get a stumping? I feel like he did. Batting, he looked a little bit more ropey. I thought he was slowly getting into it, but I didn't see anything that made me think that he's going to be a liability for them throughout the rest of this tournament. So I think that's a plus for Delhi, and on a day like this, they need all the pluses they can get. I mean, it's very possible today we saw the two teams who might fight out for the bottom. It's a big tournament, and who knows, injuries and form and all sorts of things can swing. But I did look at that at times and just go, these are the two teams who are most likely to finish last. And I'm going to finish with this. PS says, is Klaasen the ginger Jesus? I mean, what a brilliant comment, and thank you so much for doing that. Where does his peak fit in? I don't know yet. I haven't gone back, but it's a hell of a pointy end that his last couple of years. The fact that he could warp in a game that no one should have been able to win. He warped the betting markets, and then he warped the match predictors back to back, just because he just is not a normal batter. What we saw today from Andre Russell and Henrik Klaasen was absolutely some of the most special stuff we will ever see. Anyway, that's us. Go over to our website, goodareas.co. Go over to the main Good Areas video channel as well. Just go everywhere I am at. I'm always everywhere at all times. And tomorrow, if you want to watch us live, we will be doing 7 hours of watch along with Cricket 8. We'll be talking same sort of stuff I do on this channel. Analysis. We look at the fantasy stuff. We look at the betting markets. We look at who to bet on. We look at what's going to happen next, the matchups, all these sorts of things. It is as nerdy as you could get because I host it. And that's what you get. Like, subscribe, be nice to your mum. I'll see you again tomorrow here on the Scoreboard.
Occasionally, I also talk about behind the scenes stuff. Huge thanks to everyone who has supported us on Patreon and helped us build this channel. Join our Patreon community and unlock exclusive benefits. Enjoy AMAs, live calls with me, and connect with fellow cricket enthusiasts on Discord. Express your cricket fandom with Bodyline t-shirts. Discover their extensive range of player-inspired tees, featuring cricket legends such as Murali, Warne, and Wasim, with team-themed design.
Sometimes you just need to take the slips out and bowl defensively. And you also need to be careful with your computer's defense as well. If you need a VPN, go Nord. NordVPN.com/Kimber to get a 2-year contract with a discount, plus 4 extra months and gifts in some markets. It's completely risk-free with Nord's 30-day money-back guarantee. The link is in the show notes. So put in some dot balls and turn them into maidens via NordVPN.com/Kimber. If you make any content, Minvo Pro